On this short video, I'll just discuss one little question to our weekly reading. Why did Yosef, when he let the brothers come back to their homes, and he only took one of the brothers to stay as a kind of hostage, why did he take specifically Shimon? So the simple understanding is that Shimon was the one who at some point threw him into the pit, and it was midah keneged midah. The punishment was according to the sin, so he took Shimon specifically and put him in jail when the brothers left. By the way, according to our sages, according to Chazal, he later let Shimon go, and freed him without letting him go, of course, back home, but didn't keep him in jail the entire time. Only while the brothers were there, he wanted to pretend to be so strict and cruel, and he put Shimon in front of their eyes. But there is a deeper explanation to all this. Now, it's known that Shimon and Levi were the two brothers who were the most dangerous when they're together. Who knows what those two will come up with? They already once fought against the entire city of Shechem. So Yosef wanted to separate the two. That was the first step, to make sure that they're not going to come back fighting. And the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, in his commentary to Sifra Detzniuta, it's one of the most mystical books in Kabbalah, thinks that there are many parallels to this idea of separating two forces that when they join together, they can create tremendous amount of damage. He brings a few examples. Now, in case of Shimon and Levi, really, the two were both righteous people to a great extent. We're not comparing every pair that the Gra brings there, but in general, there are sometimes people from different roots, and when they're joined together, it's a kind of, like this, how does a bomb work? Certain substances, when they work together, they cause an explosion. The chemical reaction releases so much energy, it's an explosion. So that's how it is with some people, and that's how it is with some substances also. Why are there prohibitions of certain mixtures in the Torah? There are all kinds of mixtures that are forbidden, including, for instance, in the clothing, you cannot mix wool and linen. So those two have two spiritual roots that shouldn't be mixed together. It's a kind of spiritual bomb. The energy that's released is very dangerous. But it could be used for good. For example, just like atomic energy could be used for good, as of course we're all enjoying electricity that comes from atomic energy too. So too, shatnez, interesting, the mixture of wool and linen was used in the temple. The clothing of the priests, and specifically Kohen Gadol, most of his clothing was a mixture of wool and linen. So the very thing that's forbidden for a regular person to do in the temple actually served a positive goal. So this energy could be channeled in the correct manner. You just couldn't do it in regular ways, and that's the Torah's prohibition of shatnez. So the Gra says that all of these things are related. The root of wool and linen, the root of Shimon and Levi, and the root of Edom and Yishmael, surprisingly. The two roots of what later became the religions of Christianity and Islam also cannot be allowed to combine in a certain sense. When they combine, they can destroy the world. So, for example, we find that during World War II, the Mufti of Jerusalem, who was a horrible anti-Semite and caused pogroms to the Jews and did everything in his power to stop the Jewish people from returning to their homeland, he worked together with Hitler. And I don't think this was ever confirmed and verified, but there is good reasons to believe he even visited the concentration camps. I know that Rabbi Weissman, though, writes, who lived in Czechoslovakia and during World War II saved a lot of people and was able to bribe the German official, Velitseny, to stop him from deporting the remaining Jews of Slovakia. And among other things, he does mention there, whatever he was told by the German official, that there is some kind of an agreement between the Arabs and the Germans that the Jews of Europe will never come to the land of Israel, that they will be destroyed. So whatever circumstantial evidence or full evidence would definitely have very good reasons to believe that this combination of Muslims with the Germans, the possible root of Edom in our time, was in fact at that time what contributed to a large extent to the Holocaust. Now, of course, you don't need for Hitler much encouragement to kill the Jews. He was one of the worst anti-Semites in our history, but together with the fact that the Muslims also were demanding that, it could have been an extra contribution. After all, even Hitler didn't start with killing Jews right away, or at least not on the massive scale that he later came to. But there was a real pact going on. And of course, the Muslims did everything to prevent the Jewish people from being saved in the land of Israel. They tried to push the British, which unfortunately the British did succumb to stop the Jewish immigration or to severely limit the Jewish immigration. The one place where a lot of Jews could have been saved probably if the British would have allowed was the land of Israel, which at that time was almost empty and there was so much space for everyone. Millions of Jews could have been saved. Since no country wanted to take them, this would have been the ideal place. But unfortunately, the British succumbed to the Muslim pressure. So this idea of the two forces that are joined together that causes tremendous damage is unfortunately repeated in history. And if we look at the recent history of our times, I think we may be able to see the same idea again, unfortunately. Again, the European Christians, they're not even so religious as Christians anymore, but they are, at least on paper, right? For instance, the main German party, the party of the Chancellor of Germany, who is not openly anti-Semitic, by the way. She's not openly anti-Semitic. She's just, her policies are the ones that cause tremendous rise of anti-Semitism. Today, there's no real clear line between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, because the Jews are perceived as supporters of Israel, which in many cases is true, of course, and they suffer. Until recently, we're accustomed to see anti-Semitism as something else entirely. We usually imagine an anti-Semite a certain type of person. But today, there's very few of those old types of anti-Semites left, at least not in the countries where we live. There's very few regular Americans, regular British, regular Germans who are just stam anti-Semites. I don't think in fact, I have never met in America even one regular anti-Semite at all. But anti-Semitic acts on college campuses, for instance, are growing every year at a tremendous speed. Why are they growing? Not because all of a sudden the traditional type of anti-Semites, some kind of Ku Klux Klan or something, is conquering colleges. No, absolutely not. It's not the neo-Nazis that all of a sudden have control of our universities in America. No, it's the leftist liberal professors that are absolutely horribly anti-Israel that encourage generally the students and, of course, also the influx of Muslim population that unfortunately brings a kind of new anti-Semitism, a leftist type of anti-Semitism that in theory is very different, but in practice it's all the same. So the anti-Zionism actually comes out in full anti-Semitism to oftentimes to the students who are actually not even so Jewish. It actually maybe reminds these students who they are. In many cases, the Jew only remembers that he's a Jew when he is hated. Unfortunately, we'll hope that the Jewish people will remember that they're Jewish without actually being pushed by the anti-Semites. So this type of a new alliance again between the Edomites, or those who spiritually following the new roots, and the Muslims, unfortunately, this alliance is kind of coming back in recent years. The way they would, in colleges, for instance, have these weeks of remembrance of poor Palestinian people who are oppressed, all kinds of movements, anti-Israel, apartheid state, making checkpoints so that the students can't come through until they're searched, and saying, well, look, this is what the Israelis do to the Palestinians. But they have to remember, what's the alternative? The Israelis wanted many times to somehow make peace with Palestinians. The problem is the Palestinian demand is such that basically the ultimate goal is destruction. Even the less extremist factions, not Hamas, but Fatah. And by the way, who's going to make sure that Fatah would be in power, even if the West Bank, let's say, would be given a separate country status? Very soon, Hamas could take over, just like it happened in Gaza, and Israel would be in danger. So Israel is just trying to survive. They are actually trying to make these checkpoints as not offensive as possible, and making the Palestinians be able to pass them quickly without too much difficulties. But this is just something we're forced to do. In a sense, it reminds me of this whole polemics in New York City with regards to stop and frisk. There was a policy for a while that any person could be stopped on the street and searched in case they have guns. If they don't have guns, they just go on. There's absolutely nothing that will be done to them. The only infringement of their privacy is that they can be stopped and searched. Now, I'm all pro this policy. Unfortunately, the African Americans were searched on average more than the perceived idea that they shouldn't be searched as often as they were. So there were leftist movements that were trying to stop, and accomplished it actually, stop the whole idea of stop and frisk because of that. Now, I'm absolutely against any kind of discrimination. I'm absolutely against searching people because they're black or Latino or any other color. To me, every person is a person. But you have to understand that when the policeman thinks that this person may be carrying a gun, he doesn't always have to have a clear explanation. He doesn't have to fill out a long application. I'm searching this person because this, and this. And if this person happens to be African American, I mean, all that happens is he's going to be searched. If he doesn't carry a gun, it's the greatest thing, and he goes on. The point is that we know that African Americans suffer from African Americans who kill them much more than from anybody else. It's not police brutality that kills most African Americans. Right now in Chicago, every day people get killed. Black people killing black people. So the best thing that could happen for African Americans is if there will be a stronger police presence that will be searching more people and find those who have guns and stop the crime. That would be the best thing for them. So I sincerely believe that if it happens to be that statistically the black people feel that they're searched more, since it cannot always be proven or disproven, the policeman, for whatever reason, it could be a black policeman, by the way, could think that this person is suspicious. All they're going to do is search. That's the worst thing that will happen. I mean, I understand that this is private, and of course people would presumably not want to be searched for nothing, but the worst that will happen is they'll be searched and let go if they're not carrying a gun. If they are carrying a gun, then it's a great thing that they were caught. It's the greatest thing for everyone, including, like I said, the black communities, who I believe have a fantastic potential if they would be gotten rid of crime and gangs. And the black Americans have just as much potential as everybody else. Until recently, a few generations ago, the black families were much more stable, actually. There were more people born with a father and a mother in black families than in the white families until some decades ago. So I think the potential is there. It's just you have to get rid of crime. And the only way to get rid of crime is to search people for guns. And if people feel that this is discrimination, even if it is sometimes, the worst thing that will happen, a person will be only searched. He's not going to go to jail or anything like that. They'll only be searched. So we always have to choose a lesser evil. Would it be better if people with guns will escape? Or will it be better if we make it so difficult for the police to search anyone because they have to fill out long applications to prove that the person they searched, they're not doing it because of skin color? This is almost impossible. There's a lot of people among police force who are black, by the way. I think in New York it might be even more percentage-wise the police force that is black, at least as much as the black community in general in New York. So it cannot be that unfair. I mean, the black policemen are also doing this and searching whoever they think are suspicious. So I think that we should choose the lesser evil. But my point is that just like people were against stop and frisk, and therefore in New York we don't do it anymore, so too these same people or similar type of people, the similar thinking leads to saying Israelis shouldn't search Palestinians for guns when they go through the checkpoints. But what should they do? Allow them to kill innocent Israelis? There's only two options. Either some people will get killed, or some people will have the inconvenience of being searched. That's the only two options right now. There is no third option. I think out of the two alternatives, it's much better to have people searched in the least offensive way possible than to have people die, chas v'shalom. That's what my opinion is, and I think that most reasonable people should be able to agree with this. And on this way end this video, please post your comments.